Namaste students, welcome to your political science, chapter 2, Indian foreign policies. In this chapter, we will be studying what is the nature of the Indian foreign policy, the Panchashila principle, the non-aligned movement, disarmament and anti-apartheid policy. Children, can we live alone in this world? No, we cannot live alone, isn't it? Like that, we are interdependent on each other. Like that, even there are many countries which are there which are dependent on each other. And the type of relationship, there is interaction with other countries. Like that, there are many relationships they try to maintain a friendly relationship is needed. So when a country needs to have, we are not self-sufficient with what we are having in our country, right? Like that, we are dependent on the other countries. Like that, even the other countries are also dependent on are dependent on us. We are having 200 countries in the world, and very few countries are very strong and some countries are very weak. So according to the experts, they tell every sovereign country has its own foreign policy. A sovereign country is that which is not under any other country's control, either internal or in external issues. So it is important to note that India has its own foreign policy before independence and also after the independence. India is considered as one of the major countries of the world with its huge population, natural resources, military, industrialized capacities and intellectual. India is one of the few countries that has the own foreign policy. So what do we mean by foreign policy? Foreign policy refers to the sum total of principles, interests and objectives with a country promotes while interacting with other countries. Even though there are certain basic features of foreign policy, it is not a fixed concept. The thrust of foreign policy keeps on changing according to the changing international conditions. India's foreign policy is shaped by several factors, including its history, culture, geography, and economy. Jawaharlal Nehru tells a nation should realize that foreign policy is an art of finding the right policy in spite of many policies. It is useful to a country. We can speak of good for international community and international peace also. Finally, every government considers everything from its own perspective. The foreign policy of a government is based on the long term as well as the short term on the interest of that country. No government dares to do harm to its own interest. So, foreign policy, most Indians agree that its first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru had defined a unique foreign policy for India at the very dawn of its independence since the 1990s. Though the challenge for the Indian leaders have been reinterpreted Nehru's ideas to suit the new political context that had confronted it. India got independence on 15th August 1947. As an independent country, India wants to be a peaceful and a coexistence with other countries. So there are certain aims of foreign policy. They are national security, enriching the national economy, spreading the cultural richness of our country in other countries by increasing the number friendly countries and check the power of the enemy countries and achieving the world peace coexistence. In a radio Jawaharlal Nehru quotes, time is not measured by the passing of years, but by what one does, what one feels, and what one achieves. Now, in the radio speech of September 7, 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru outlined the foreign policy of India for the first time to the general public. The speech gave an indication of the foreign relationships that the India is going to have with the countries like America, Russia, and China. He managed the foreign policies of India as an external affair minister, apart from being the prime minister as well. And that is why the foreign policy of India is called as the foreign policy of Nehru. Various international and national issues have influenced the foreign policy of India. The main issues that have influenced and shaped the Indian foreign policies are the national interest, the political situation, the geographical interest, the public opinion, the military issue, the economic interest, and the international situations. Now let us move on to what are the basic aspects of the India's foreign policy. First, we will move on to the Panchashila principles. Panchashila. Panchashila was born 50 years ago in response to the world asking for a new set of principles for conduct of the international relationships that reflect the aspirations of all the nations to coexist and prosperous together, peace and harmony. 58 leaders on the Golden Jubilee anniversary of Panchashila, the chord that was struck in 1954 still rings pure and true in the world, yet to the lodestar that will guide into the harbor. Panchashila, or the five principles of peaceful coexistence, were first formally enunciated in the Agreement on Trade and Intercourse between the Tibet region of China and India that was signed on April 29, 1954, which stated in its preamble that the two governments have resolved to enter to the present agreement on the following principles. It was signed between the Prime Minister, that is the Jawaharlal Nehru, and the Premier of China, that is Zhou Enlai. So, which are these five principles? Mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. These are the basic fine building blocks of the Indian foreign policy. 2 months later, during the visit of Premier Zhou Enlai to India, he and Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru issued a joint statement on June 28, 1954, that elaborated their vision of Panchashila as the framework not only for the relation between two countries but also for the relationship with all the countries, so that a solid foundation could be laid for peace and security in the world. Panchashila, as envisioned by its creators, gave subsistence to the voice of newly established countries who were seeking peace and seeking the space to consolidate their hard-won independence, as it provides an alternative ideology dedicated to peace and development on all the basis of international interactions, whether bilateral or multilateral. At that time, the two prime ministers also expressed the hope in the joint statement that the adoption of Panchashila will also help in creating area of peace and, as circumstances permit, can enlarge and lessening the chances of war and strengthening the peace of all over the world. The vision caught the imagination of the peoples of Asia and the world. Panchashila was incorporated into the 10 principles of international peace and cooperation enunciated in the declaration issued by the April 1955, the Bandung Conference of 29 Afro-Asian cities. The universal relevance of Panchashila was emphasized when its tenets were incorporated in resolution on peaceful coexistence presented by India, Yugoslavia and Sweden, and unanimously adopted on December 11, 1957 by the United Nations General Assembly. In 1961, the Conference of the Non-Aligned Nations in Belgrade accepted the Panchashila as the principal core for the non-alignment movement. So like this, the Panchashila have been adopted everywhere. The timeless relevance of Panchashila is based on its firm roots in the cultural tradition of its originators, two of the world's most ancient civilizations. The linkage that was established by the spread of Buddhism in China led to the historical basis for the formulations of the principles of Panchashila by India and China. Now we will move on to the next this one, the non-aligned movement. The world was divided during the Second World War, children. The world was divided into two parts. One was the communist bloc and another one was the democratic bloc. America belonged to the democratic bloc and Russia belonged to the communist bloc. In those days, India followed the policy during the Second World War non-aligned to either of the blocs. It was successful in commanding the faith from both the blocs. It stayed neutral. India stayed neutral during this time, and it secured financial assistance from USA and secured military assistance from USSR. It also deals issues independently. The credit of creating an independent policy of being non-aligned and making it a part of foreign policy goes to India. After Nehru, the Prime Minister like Lal Bahadur Shastri and Indira Gandhi followed the principle of eye for an eye in foreign policy. The wars held in 1965 and 1971 with Pakistan were guided by this policy. Then later on, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister of India, he tried to reform the foreign policy and worked hard to have a very good relationship with Pakistan. Now we will move on to the five principles of non-alignment: mutual respect and each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference of domestic affairs, equality and mutual benefit, peaceful and coexistence. Now we will move on to the next topic, that is anti imperialism. The foreign policy of India opposes imperialism. Imperialism, what do we mean by imperialism? Is an attempt by a sovereign country to take over another sovereign country with the intention of ruling for its personal gains. It was natural for India that we got the independence from the imperial country to oppose such moves of the other countries. No corner of the world will have imperialism was declared by India in the conference of Asian countries during which was held in New Delhi and Bandung. Now we will move on to the next, that is the apartheid policy. Let us know about the SAARC. The SAARC, when it is there, the SAARC is the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. We are having Afghanistan, we are having Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan and Sri Lanka. This is the symbol of SAARC, children. We can see here there are 7 pigeons. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are having 7 pigeons here, and this is the Buddha's eye, and this is the thumb, and this is the hand, and this is the golden color. So this the indication of the SAARC. We saw about the imperialism, and now we will move on to the apartheid policy. We had also had the non-alignment Bandung conference, which was held. We can see Jawaharlal Nehru also took part in this. This was the conference which was held. Now we will move on to the anti-apartheid policy. Apartheid. When I tell apartheid, what do we mean by apartheid? A system of legal racial segregation enforced by the National Party government in South Africa between 1984 and 1994, which the rights of the majority black inhabitants of South Africa were curtailed and minority rule by the whites was maintained. So the apartheid is, the meaning of apartheid is an attempt by a race of the people of a particular skin color where they subjugate to the another race of different skin color in the name of supremacy. So apartheid was an affront of the human rights and also the world peace. The foreign policy of India declared that no country of the world shall practice this. The minority of white, while ruling the majority black people in South Africa, India had declared its support to Nelson Mandela. He is Nelson Mandela. And his party, the African National Congress, who were opposing the apartheid in their country. So to the end, the racist practice and the legal segregations of the apartheid of the government to free the black of the South Africans from the political and economic control of the white Afrikaner minority. Now we will move on to disarmament. What do we mean when I tell disarmament? Disarmament is the acting of laying down the arms, especially, that is, the reduction or abolition of nations' military forces and armaments. In simple terms, when we tell the acting of putting down weaponry, especially the decline of removal of military weapons. So, the process of elimination of specific arms, step by step, we call that as disarmament. There is an increased competition for the production and collection of arms in the world. There are many countries that are worried that the massive scale of arms, when there is more arms, it could lead to the Third World War. So the countries with massive arms may attack the another country. It might be intentionally or it might be by mistake, accident triggering of massive devastation. So the presence of nuclear arms makes the issue more complicated. India, being a peace loving country, advocates the reduction of arms, qualitative and also the quantitative. So, during the time of Nehru, India has supported the disarmament process. So, when we tell disarmament, it is impossible for a country to attain the total disarmament. We want the armaments. Why? To protect our country, for the protection, and an attempt has been made only in the reduction, children. So, the Constitution, according to the Article 51 of our Constitution, it advocates for a foreign policy that aims at establishing international peace and cooperation. The Department of External Affairs of the central government plays a decisive interest and public opinion. Indian foreign policy aims at strengthening the UNO. It strives hard to have strong foreign relationships with the countries of the world, those SAARC and Commonwealth of Nations as well. India has been one of the major members of the UNO. So, with this, we finish up with the political science second chapter, foreign policy. Children, these are the terminologies and I have given the meaning. Please copy down in your classwork. As I told, Article 51, it states it promotes international peace and security, maintain just honorable relationship between nations, foster the respect of international law and treaty obligations in the dealings of organized peoples with one another, encourage settlement of the international disputes by arbitration. And this is the home assignment. Please write in your long notebook. Thank you, children. And these are 3 marks questions also where you will write. 3 marks, you have to write 6 points. Thank you, children.